It's okay? Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're starting the event now, please. Yeah, I think there is someone. Yeah, just, okay. Thank you. So welcome to our side event. I'm Natalia Figueiredo, External Affairs Manager at World Animal Protection Brazil. World Animal Protection is a global organization with 12 offices across the global north and south. And as part of my job, I work with the Brazilian government to create action on animal welfare and animal protection in Brazil and to impact all over the world. Our side event is called Reducing Deforestation and Industrial Agri-Farm. A climate win-win. In our event, we will expect Ms. Rodrigo Agostinho from IBAMA arrive a little later, but he is coming. And a quick overview of the side event context. It's the forests remain the key defeating climate change. The world's forest holds 100 years worth of annual fossil fuels emissions. Forests are a home for nearly 3/4 of life that exists on land and are a home for people, animals, and other biodiversity that will help us achieve the Paris Agreement goals. However, humanity continues to destroy forests. There has been a 12% decrease in the tree cover since 2000. Much of this deforestation is caused by land use change and driven by expansion of factory farm and the growing of animal feed industry. We are now in the sad situation where the forest habitats of animals are being destroyed to produce feed that keeps cruel factory farms running, inflicting untold suffering on billions of animals each year. At the same time, forests are the house of many traditional communities, especially in Brazil and South America, and they are suffering with impacts of deforestation itself. These factory farms are not only cruel, they are huge polluters and they're climate culprits that must be tackled. The COP26 Glasgow Leaders Declaration on Forest and Land Use was stepped up to coordinate global efforts to tackle deforestation. Individual countries, such as Brazil, have made progress, especially this year to tackle illegal deforestation. Though the call legal deforestation remains an urgent problem. Tackling industrial farms undermines growing need for more and more animal feed is an essential step to ending deforestation. About Brazil's situation and our work in Brazil's Office of World Animal Protection, we are working to show that these impacts of deforestation to our biodiversity and the human rights violation that are connected with these practices. And today, I'm honored to be joined by two speakers from the Brazil administration, Rodrigo Agostinho from IBAMA, and Edel Moraes, representing traditional people at the Brazil Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Issues. And of course, Ms. Glenn Horowitz, founder and CEO of Might Earth, will also speak. However, the most important speak today is you and the audience. So we expect around 10, 15 minutes to questions from you. So please prepare your question for our panelists. So let's start with Mr. Edel. We will have simultaneous translating at the moment. So her translator will speak at the first person as Ms. Edel actually has spoken. So I want to welcome Ms. Adele Moraes, who is the National Secretary for Traditional People and Communities at the Environmental and Climate Change Ministry. She belongs to a traditional community, Rio Pagão, Boa Esperança Community, and a rural area of Arquipélago do Marajó, Curralinho, Pará. And she is a PhD student at the Center for Sustainable Development at the Federal University of Brasilia. So, Ms. Adele, the first question is for you. We know that traditional communities have a strong part at the defense of the forest and the biodiversity. How deforestation is affecting the lives and the practice of traditional communities in Brazil? You can start.
Olá, boa tarde a todos e a todas, os presentes. Obrigada, Natália, pelo convite, pela oportunidade de falar. Como está sendo transmitido e outras pessoas podem estar nos ouvindo, eu sou uma mulher negra, estou com uma saia longa, com grafismos indígenas e com um blazer um pouco creme, tenho cabelos ondulados, uso óculos, e sou uma mulher preta e o fundo tem o painel aqui anunciando.
So, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Natalia, for the invitation. So to start, since there are people who might be listening, I want to say I am a Black woman. I am wearing a long skirt with indigenous drawings. I have a cream blazer on. I am wearing glasses, and the background is a screen with the event name.
Eu queria começar dizendo que a floresta é lar das pessoas, de muitos povos e comunidades tradicionais, de muitos povos indígenas e de povos quilombolas, e também dos animais, o que eu gosto de dizer de humanos de outras naturezas.
So first of all, I want to start saying that the forest is a home to many peoples, to indigenous peoples, to traditional communities, to quilombola communities, to the animals, who I like to say are people, os animais são pessoas, from other natures.
Deflorestar a floresta é matar a vida de todos esses seres. É também cometer um suicídio, um ecocídio da natureza, das pessoas e dos animais.
To deforestate is to kill all beings of the forest. It's a suicide and an ecocide of the people and the animals that live there.
Fazer deflorestamento é também matar nascente de água.
To deforestate is to also kill places where rivers are born and water starts.
E não ter água, não ter floresta, é também não ter água.
To not have the water, to not have the forest is also to not have water.
É preparar o ambiente para queimadas, para secas.
Is to prepare the environment for burnings and for droughts.
E não afeta somente aos povos e comunidades locais.
And it doesn't only affect local communities.
Eu gosto de trazer o exemplo que se desmatar a Amazônia, se matar a Amazônia, também as outras regiões do Brasil não terão água, não terão vida.
I like to bring the example that deforesting the Amazon, killing the Amazon, means that other regions of Brazil will also not have water.
Manter todos os biomas vivos é um compromisso. Não desmatar o cerrado, que é fonte de nascente de água também para a Amazônia, é manter todos os biomas vivos.
To not deforestate the other biomes of Brazil, to keep the Cerrado alive, is to also keep the Amazon alive.
As consequências são para todos nós no planeta.
The consequences are for all of us all around the world.
Mas afeta diretamente os mais vulneráveis, que não são a minoria, são a maioria. Povos indígenas, povos pretos, comunidades tradicionais de todo o mundo.
And it affects Everybody, but mostly the most vulnerable people who are not the minority. We are the majority, the Black people, the indigenous communities.
Portanto, a responsabilidade é de todos nós. Nós não temos dois planetas, nós só temos um.
Therefore, the responsibility is ours, everybody's. We don't have two planets, we only have one.
Nós precisamos encontrar meios para que a gente possa manter todas as vidas vivas e saudáveis.
We need to find means to keep all lives alive and healthy.
É preciso produzirmos alimentos para todos.
It is necessary to produce food for everybody.
E nós não queremos evitar que todos tenham alimentos.
And we don't want to avoid that everybody has food.
E precisamos encontrar alternativas, e uma delas é conter o desmatamento.
And we need to find alternatives, and one of them is to combat deforestation.
Não há mais tempo, nós precisamos usar novas tecnologias de adaptação a esse momento.
There is no more time, and we need to find new technologies to adapt to this moment.
Precisamos agir rápido.
We need to act fast.
Manter a floresta em pé
To keep the forest alive,
é manter a vida de todos.
it's to keep everybody's lives.
Deflorestar
Deforestate
é violar principalmente mulheres e crianças.
is to violate mostly and mainly women and children.
Portanto, é
Therefore,
violarmos o futuro.
it is to violate the future.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Adele. It was an important speech about deforestation and their impacts in the traditional communities' lives. Right now, I will pass for Mr. Glenn. I'm happy to be joined by Glenn Horowitz. It's the founder and the CEO of Might Earth, an environmental advocacy group to end deforestation in global supply chains, with a particular focus on the industrial meat sector. So, Glenn, the first question is how can we make the companies responsible for the value chain related with deforestation?
Yeah, great question. And thank you. And it's great to be here with you. You're doing so
Reconhecerem
much to protect the
responsabilidades
forest.
pela-
I think in answer to your question, the great news is that it's been shown that these companies don't need to deforest to prosper. For one thing, there are 1.6 billion acres of land across South America where you can expand agriculture without driving deforestation. President Lula said this when he was elected. He said, there's no reason that in Brazil we need to grow any soy or cattle with one single acre of deforestation. And I think that is true. The tragedy is that some of the large meat companies and the animal feed companies have continued to drive deforestation on the frontier, in the Amazon, in the Cerrado, in the Pantanal. I think in the Amazon, we've seen amazing progress thanks to the efforts of Ibama and Rodrigo in reducing deforestation since President Lula came into office. That's largely because in the Amazon, there is great landowners generally have to protect 80% of the land. So there's a lot of potential for environmental law enforcement to make a huge difference. In other ecosystems like the Cerrado and Pantanal, it really is mostly the meat companies driving deforestation and the legal protections are not as strong. And so that's where the private sector comes in. Brazil supports the diets of 800 million people around the world. And I think we are trying to mobilize those people to go to supermarkets, go to other consumer goods companies that sell meat and say, we want to eat protein without deforestation. Finally, I would say, over the long term, one of our goals is to scale up plant-based protein, other alternative proteins that have a dramatically lower impact on the land, that consume 20% or less the amount of land. And so that way, countries like Brazil, like the United States, can free up land from inefficient production for meat, focus on smallholder production that leads to broader prosperity, suck gigatons of carbon out of the atmosphere, and allow the forest to regrow and create wildlife habitat, and allow indigenous communities to retain title to their land.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. I think it is important question about Cerrado and Pantanal in Brazil. We actually need to ensure the protection of this part of these biomes. And of course, Mr. Rodrigo will talk us about a little bit about this. And I would like to welcome Mr. Rodrigo. Thank you for coming. Today, he is president of IBAMA, Brazilian Institute of Environmental and Renewable Natural Sources. He is a former federal deputy for São Paulo, and he's activist on environmental causes for almost 20 years. So we know that this year Brazil reduced deforestation in Amazon, and the data about this shows that deforestation has a strong connection with cattle. And can you share with us and talk a little bit about this relationship between deforestation and livestock? And what IBAMA are doing to stop deforestation in Brazil? Mike, you can.
Thank you so much for the invitation to stay here. I'm very glad. IBAMA is the most important environmental agency in Brazil. We work with Environment Ministry. The ministry create the policies and IBAMA execute the policies. We are working hard since the beginning of this year to stop deforestation. In Brazil, we have 6 different biomes. Half of our territory is Amazon, and we have another so important biomes. In the Amazon, we cut a half the process of deforestation with enforcement. We are doing well the process to cut the illegal deforestation. In Brazil, we have the illegal and the legal deforestation. The illegal, we work with enforcement. We are doing fines, almost 20,000 fines in this year, more than 4 billion reais, almost $1 billion in fines. We are doing embargoes. Embargoes is the prohibition to do some activity in deforested areas. We are doing a lot of activities with some different strategies. We are using a lot technologies. We are creating remote embargoes, almost 1 million hectares in remote embargoes, and we are seizuring the cattle in illegal areas, and we are working with the presence of our team in the hotspots of deforestation. It's not easy, it's dangerous. We are fighting against a criminal problem in some areas. In other areas, we have a natural process of occupation of our territory. We lose almost half our territory of forest and different kind of vegetations. The cattle during the last 30 years are moving southern to northern of Brazil. In the Amazon, we have 6 million hectares now in open areas. So to us, we are working hard to zero deforestation until 2030. It's not easy, but we are working hard. We really need to create different strategies, economic strategies, because now we are working almost with enforcement. We really need to value our forestry, to value our different biomes. In Cerrado and Pantanal, we have a lot of legal deforestation. With legal deforestation, IBAMA, we can do almost nothing. It's very difficult to fight against the legal deforestation. But in the illegal deforestation in the Amazon, we are doing what is necessary. It's possible to reduce more. The number is still higher. We know and we are working with our team to do the best. It's very important because our forest, we lose 20% of Amazon, but the rest of the Amazon are collapsing. We have the dry season are increasing a lot. We're losing the water of the forest. The forest are more susceptible to fires, and we have a process of degradation. We need to do what is necessary to stop the process of destruction.
Thank you, Ms. Rodrigo. I think this is really something that we all need to engage. And for the second question for all of you, will be really quickly the answer. I ask you for that, but it's important to listen to you, of course. And then Ms. Adele, giving back into her, like you are now in the government. So, and of course, it's a different position from be an activist in this debate. So I think you could talk for us a little bit about what public policies related to traditional communities are you involved to attack the problem caused by deforestation, if it's possible.
A diferença de não ser ativista, que eu sou de uma comunidade e eu sei o que causa a não efetivação das políticas. E nós estamos trabalhando.
The difference between being an activist is that I come from a traditional community and I understand where the non-implementation has been coming from. And we are working.
Dos programas chamado Programa Bolsa Verde.
One of the programs we are working on called Bolsa Verde,
que leva a transferência de renda, assistência técnica e articula outras políticas públicas até as comunidades.
So it takes public policies to communities and revenue and income transference to local communities.
Essas comunidades, elas não são a causadora do desmatamento.
These communities are not the cause of deforestation.
Elas são a última fronteira de defesa do desmatamento, como os povos indígenas.
They are the last barrier, they are the front line against deforestation with the indigenous people.
Que foi uma das primeiras missões do meu amigo do IBAMA, presidente do IBAMA, combater o garimpo ilegal, combater o deflorestamento em territórios indígenas, como o território Yanomami.
And this was the first mission of my friend, the president of IBAMA, to combat deforestation in indigenous territories, in the Yanomami territory.
E nós precisamos olhar para essas pessoas que defendem a floresta.
And we need to look at those people, the people that protect the forest.
E não culpá-las por isso.
And not blame them for it.
A conta tem que ir para outras pessoas.
The bill has to go to other people.
Nesse segmento, nós temos que trabalhar na perspectiva de justiça social.
In this segment, we have to work in the perspective of social justice.
De garantia de direito.
Guaranteeing rights.
E o programa Bolsa Verde, ele é o início.
And the Bolsa Verde program is the beginning of that.
Também estamos trabalhando com a retomada do Conselho Nacional de Povos e Comunidades Tradicionais.
And we're also working on the restart of the National Council of Traditional Communities.
No Brasil, existem mais de 305 povos indígenas.
In Brazil, there are more than 305 indigenous peoples.
E assim como diversos biomas, são 29 diferentes comunidades locais.
And just like biomes, there are 29 different local communities.
Então, nós precisamos fazer chegar as políticas até esse povo que defende a floresta.
So we need to make the policies get to the people who defend the forest.
Thank you, Ms. Adele. It's really important to hear that right now we have strong policy and made by the people who were affected for these issues. So I will make one more question for Mr. Glenn that actually works with to become to make companies accountable for their their responsibility in these issues. So I think, Glenn, you can give us examples of the actions made by Might Earth about the process of report the responsibility of these companies.
Yeah. Well, Rodrigo is talking about, that there's more work to do in the Cerrado and the Pantanal, and because there's a lot of legal deforestation there. And so I think that's a big part of where we come in, where organizations like us come in. So to give you a couple of examples, the largest corporate driver of deforestation in Brazil is a company called JBS. It's the largest meat company in the world. And interestingly, it gets about 20% of its revenue in Brazil and 50% in the United States. So we work all around the world, including in Brazil, but we're doing a lot internationally to try and change JBS. Our whole theory of change is that when we can move the largest company in an industry, we can set a new standard for performance for everybody else. We've had that experience in Asia where our campaigns help change the palm oil industry and the rubber industry and the paper industry. And we've seen 90% decline in deforestation for those commodities there. It's been a gigaton scale climate success. We want to bring that to South America and also make more sustainable changes in the United States. So we look for all sorts of opportunities. We work on retailers who sell, buy the meat from JBS and other companies. We work on consumer goods companies. We work on banks and investors. The biggest priority right now is JBS is trying to list its stock on the New York Stock Exchange. Potentially, this gives them access to billions and trillions of dollars in new capital markets. It also, the way they're structuring it is unusual in that they are trying to not just raise money, but also reorganize the company so that 85% control will be under the family that owns and controls JBS. We think this is an opportunity to drive leverage with the company. We've talked a lot with the company. We've encouraged them to set up better monitoring systems to stop deforestation. They're in a process of change, but they haven't gone far enough, and they're still driving deforestation across Brazil and beyond. So we've asked the Securities and Exchange Commission to intervene and make sure that they're being honest about what their climate impact is, what their deforestation impact is. Number two, I'm pleased to announce today that we are going to be launching our rapid response satellite monitoring project. So we've done this in South America and Southeast Asia and Africa before, but thanks to the support of ICS, we're going to be able to scale this up in Brazil starting in the very near future. And what that means is at least every quarter and hopefully ramping up to every month, we will be monitoring tens of millions of acres of the agricultural frontier throughout Brazil. When we find deforestation in the supply chains of big meat and animal feed companies, we'll file alerts with them, we'll file alerts with their customers, and we'll file alerts with their financiers. Our expectation is that they will act within 48 hours to make sure those companies stop deforestation or not include them in their supply chain anymore. I hope this can be a powerful complement to the work that Ibama and the Brazilian government are doing to bring down illegal deforestation so we can monitor and stop legal deforestation. I'll close by saying I'm very hopeful about this. We've seen these kinds of systems work when we've deployed them in Asia and elsewhere, and I'm really glad that finally we can be scaling them up in Brazil.
Thank you, Clem. I think it's a really important initiative I think you are doing, and it's really important that we all engage in this type of initiative and help, of course, the good people in Brazilian government that try to drive change. So the last question for Mr. Rodrigo, I think it will be really the last one from me, and after that, we will pass for you and the others that want to ask any questions. Rodrigo, we know that Brazil has 6 different biomes, as you said, and the different challenges of each one of them. One of these challenges are fire related to deforestation process. The fires and deforestation are sometimes connected. The impact of the land and in animals' lives are huge. And can you talk about the public policy and the measures to face the problems of fires in places that we are facing deforestation and agribusiness growing, please?
The fires are increasing for so many reasons. We have the global warming, and we have a long process of deforestation. In our data and in our system, 30% of the fires is in deforested areas. The people cut the forest and put fires. But we are observing an increasing of the fires inside the forest. It means that the forest is more dry. It shows that we have a process of degradation. We have it so many reasons. One of that is the illegal logging. The illegal logging are taking off the most important trees, who keep the temperature more good. We create a very strong structure to fight against the fires with the money of Amazon Fund. This year, we work with more than 3,000 people in brigades to stop the fires. It's not easy, it's dangerous. Amazon is huge. Not only Amazon, we have a very huge country. We work with different people, including the volunteers, to save the animals during the fires. It's not easy because a lot of animals are killed by the fires. So we really need to create a structure more strong, because the climate are completely crazy, completely mad. We really need to increase the number of brigades. We really need to be prepared to work with this new word, a word more hot. It includes the problem of fires, the deforestation. So we are working a lot. In the last month, we had a terrible fire in Pantanal. Pantanal is the most important humid area in the world, the more strong biodiversity of the world. And it's very sad what happens during these fires. The animals burning is terrible, terrible. Global warming is happening. We were telling to the world during the last 30 years that global warming is coming. So now we need to improve our resilience and stop the deforestation process.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Actually, World Animal Protection Brazil helps we have a program called Emergency Response, who send a help in some places like Pantanal and Cerrado during the fires, but the scenes that we usually have been watching is really devastating. You know, a lot of animals and people's lives are lost in this process. And right now, we have time for maybe 2 questions from the audience. I don't know if anyone want to make a question for our panelists. They are here to, you know, talk a little bit more about their work. And my colleague, Kat, is there with a microphone. So if anyone want to ask something, feel free to ask a question. You have 2 people here.
Thank you for the insightful presentations. The question is to the IBAMA colleague. You mentioned illegal and legal deforestation. What is the difference in the size and impact of the illegal activity versus the legal activity?
Rodrigo, I think we can hear the 2 questions.
Okay.
Our answer.
Another one?
The second one, I think it's for her. And there.
Rodrigo, you mentioned you had 3,000 brigades. I wonder if you have a number, how much do you have to scale to tackle this problem? You have 3,000 brigades. What would be realistic that you need to get to sort of end deforestation by 2030?
Yeah, I think I think we will 2 questions.
We will start for the second. Probably we don't know. because we don't know how higher will be the crisis in the next year. And this year we have more than 3,500 people working in the brigades. We created some local and volunteer brigades. We bought a lot of equipments, planes, so many tools to stop the fires. But the crises are improving every year. We don't know. Maybe we must prepare. We need to prepare whole the society to fight against the fires. It's not easy. We needed to stop the fires in the beginning, because if we come late, we can't stop the fires. We saw what happens in Canada in this year. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And it's a developed country with the most strong structure to fight against the fires. So we need to be more prepared. We are working hard. We create a lot of structure, but we can do better. About the illegal and legal deforestation, the both has impact. In the both we lose forest, but in the legal, our forest code creates some conditionals with compensation. They must keep some size, some part of forest in their own property. It's different, the legal and the illegal. We need to stop deforestation. To stop illegal, we use enforcement. But to stop the legal, we must to pay to keep the forest stand. Is difficult. We need to work with different strategies. We need the carbon market. We need to environmental services payment. We need to work with nature-based solutions. We need forest concessions. We need to create more protected areas. We need to create indigenous land. We need to work with different concessions to keep the forest stand beside the law. Is very difficult. We are working hard to create these strategies, these tools. IBAMA working with the illegal deforestation, and we are working hard to decrease more the numbers. In this year, we cut in a half the problem in the Amazon. We save more than 500,000 hectares, 0.5 million hectares we save in this year. In the different biomes, we reduce a lot. And in Cerrado, we reduce the increasing 30% to 3%, but it's still higher the number.
And thank you, Rodrigo, and thank you for the questions. And we are reaching the limit time of our panel. So thank you for everybody for being here. Thank you for your participation today. You all can click on the QR code on the screen to find more about World Animal Protection work presence here at COP, including reports, relative statements, and other side events later. And our guests will be around here to talk and, engage more with our audience if it's possible. So thank you very much, and thank you all.